I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought and died just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello, and welcome to Season 35, Episode 21 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy.
I'm Artem.
I'm Riley.
I'm Cody.
And in today's episode, Stephen from Serbia asks for advice on setting up a big bad in their campaign. Davi shares thoughts on safety tools. And from the archive 2018, Gaz the DM from the Netherlands is looking for plot hooks. If you'd like to contribute a question or story to the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. Or you can post in the mailbag channel of the Discord. And you can find the Discord at happyjacks.org/discord. Announcements. JackerCon 2025 will be held the week of August 4th through the 10th. JackerCon's usually just a weekend con, and most of the games will generally happen on the weekend, but we've kind of spread it out a bit because it's always nice to have games that spread into the week ahead for people who have odd schedules or in different time zones, things like that. So August 4th through the 10th, if you go to happyjacks.org/discord, right now there's already the channel for it, and you can start posting games if you want, planning ahead, brainstorming, asking what people want you to run. It's fun, it's free, it's safe. Every game is required to use safety tools. It's basically exactly like game days, just longer. Many more days. Game days is what that is. I think that was very funny.
Game desire.
Yeah, there we go. That's how you pluralize.
Game dazed.
Yeah, there we go.
Game dazed and confused.
Yeah. So yeah.
Game daisy chain.
Ooh, nice. So yeah, JackerCon's been happening for many, many years. There was a brief pause during pandemic times where we didn't hold it, but it's one of the oldest things. It's almost as old as the podcast. It's very cool. So we love it. Go do the thing. A little bit more frustrating news. We moved the Happy Jacks website to a new hosting service. And it sent out every episode to the RSS feed again.
Oh no.
So I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Please just mark as read. Please do not unsubscribe. If you're using like Spotify or something like that, you may not even notice. If you use a more old school podcatcher, or if you're subscribed directly to the RSS feed, I love you. I am so sorry. They said it wouldn't happen. I asked many times. Also, a bunch of the old shows' links are broken. So anything before 2022, I have to go back and reattach the files by hand, one by one, to every episode on the actual play feed and the advice show feed and the one-shot feed.
Whoa.
I'm glad it's summer break because I got a project ahead of me, friends. But I am going to be doing that. I'll be doing it as quickly as possible while also living a full and fulfilling life. And
What's that like?
Are you crying?
a little. But anyway, but it will be fixed soon. And I'll post as I'm going to do it basically by show and by season. I think it's going to be my game plan there. So I'll just post in the Discord and on social media and stuff as it updates. Yeah, cool. One last thing. If you were listening to this before June 30th, Kai and I are up for some crit awards. You can go to happyjacks.org/crit and it will redirect you to the ballot to vote for us. I'm up for Best Podcast Host and Outstanding Community Member. And Kai is up for Best Player Indie, Best Player Kobold Press, and Best Makeup or Costume. So if you want to go support Happy Jacks fam and vote for us, it's a great way of making us feel good, but also of spreading the word about our little network and the work we do here. So it's very, very helpful. Again, if you want to go to happyjacks.org/crit, it will redirect you to the Google form ballot. It is not me fishing, I promise. Okay, keep going. All right.
Woo.
Indie Designer of the Month. Our Indie Designer of the Month for this month is J Dragon Shinun from Possum Creek Games. Now we know Possum Creek has now been taken on as an imprint of Steve Jackson Games, but that was announced after we asked Jay to be an Indie Designer of the Month, so we're counting it. It counts. You can find more information about her at on Blue Sky, JDragSky, JDRAGSKY. Same thing, jdragsky.tumblr.com, patreon.com/possumcreek, or possumcreekgames.itch.io. Today's product we're talking about is called The Flower Court. The Flower Court is a game about a group of incredibly powerful pop stars / feudal nobles backstabbing each other and turning against each other in the pursuit of their top secret goals. In the Flower Court, you will take on one of 12 character sheets, including the noble, Prinart. I don't know how to say that. I think it's supposed to be
Princearch? Princearch.
I think it's supposed to be gender neutral.
Yeah.
So it's
Zark?
X-Arc. Though, if you know how to do that, please tell me how to do that, because I would like to be informed. Unless it may be the thing Jake came up with, which is also possible. The War-Hungry Docs, the Mysterious Stranger, the Tricksy Baronet, or the Nervous Cinderella. You create a character riffing on bizarre aesthetics and unique names, and select a mysterious hidden goal. Over the next several hours, you and your fellow players ask each other questions, send each other valentines, propose to each other, and attempt to assassinate each other, all with unique end goals. Sounds fun. It's like,
Super
hey, kiss me
fun.
while I stab you. The Flower Court is a game for 5 to 12 players and takes around 2 to 3 hours. The full PDF is 26 pages long and contains rules on adapting for online play, help with flirting, safety mechanics, simple setting questions, and a dozen character sheets, along with a gorgeous cover by Taz Myers. The rules are intuitive and easy to grasp, and the game has been play tested extensively, both in real life and online. I feel like at this point it's also been played many, many times because it's been released for a while now. And you can get it for $10 at possumcreekgames.itch.io.
Help with flirting. I need to get that.
I know, right? I'm like,
Same.
I'm just gonna buy the
Yeah,
take
is
it.
that related to the game, or is it just
Yeah,
just comes
it's
with
like
it?
General
It's
life
like-
advice?
Make eye contact.
Oh.
Horrifying.
Ask questions.
Ah.
All right, very good. All right, I have talked a lot.
Woo!
Mailbag 1. Who would like to read it?
I'll go for it.
Awesome.
Hi, Happy Jacks crew. Steven from Serbia here. It's been many years since I last wrote for the show. If requesting to have email read in an accent, I request to be read in Australian. If not, just normal one will do. Anyway, I had a situation in my last game. It is a D&D 5e and levels 7 and 8 if it is important. The story goes like this. The party's patron, the Prince of the Kingdom, was kidnapped by a villain in order to use him to gain access to a genetically, magically coded vault in a remote location. I did everything. Foreshadowed him, introduced him early, and had other NPCs deliver information and their views of him. In short, he is a sort of cult-like leader of a small elite group. He is an epic-level monk with aspirations to ascend to a higher state of being, demigodhood, etc. I prepped up his party of dedicated followers, a warrior, a warlock, and a priest, and a few minions. The bad guy had knowledge of the party and their movements, so he played chess and outmaneuvered them, despite the party winning the actual encounter set in front of him. The party did intend to fight the BB, but in the end decided not to. I did make him the observant, deliberate, precise, and dedicated to goal, not intending to slaughter but overcome if possible. I find that if I use enemies that do not resort to violence to be more intimidating to the parties I run games for. I find that... Okay. He let the party know he saw through the ambush with body language while conversing with his minions, and before doing anything else moving away from his group and demanded to speak with the PCs by announcing parlay.
All right, I think I need to talk through this because I'm not sure I'm understanding what happened.
I think there might be a translating into English thing.
Yeah,
happening.
I think so too.
Okay.
So the party went in intending to fight the big bad, but they decided not to. He made him observant, deliberate, precise, not intending to slaughter, but able to be overcome
If possible.
if possible. And then so he finds that enemies that don't resort to violence are more intimidating. So
Yes.
like smarter rather than like jock type.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, I think
Okay.
I got it.
He let the party know. So he saw through their ambush with his body language while talking to his minions.
Okay.
And then before doing anything else, he moved away from his group, and then he demanded to speak with the PCs by announcing parlay.
Got it. Okay.
There's also
Okay.
a lot more text on the next page.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think we want to make sure we were on the same page with what had already been described.
Yeah,
Before we
yeah.
get to the next part. Okay. So there's more text. All right. I think because of the translation issue, I'm going to switch back to my regular voice for this. I think making the Australian is also
It was
confusing.
good though.
Thank you.
Exactly.
I was
Thank
like,
you.
You were so drop 10.
Thank you. I will never ever do a good Australian ever again in my life. I will try my hardest, but that one time, I'm sure someone in Australia is like, that's not very good.
This is Australian lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
moment.
Not good, mate. All right. The party berserker did attempt to reason with him, a brave option, and the players did have arguments backed up with good RP rolls. Oh, the player that attempted to reason him had arguments that were backed up with good RP and rolls. I wasn't going to set DC in a 25 plus range for reasonable arguments. That makes sense. The conflict was disarmed and the prince was released.
Great.
Okay. Happy end? Perhaps. Will he return? Very likely. If the RP did not resolve, I had a Deus Ex Machina ready to rescue the party at the brink of a TPK. But with the villain seeing his enemies as lesser, I would have done the tactical thing and defeated the party leader and demanded hostility stop for diplomacy to occur. Okay. I think I understand that. I believe I did the best I could with the situation that I placed in front of the players as a DM. My questions are, what are some of your ways to foreshadow how dangerous the villain is? Would you have done anything different? Lastly, how do you introduce a possible big bad and say how dangerous he is when the villain is not violent outright? I also like to spin the classic villains away from the usual BBEG tropes. Wizard, Necromancer, Barbarian, Lord, Evil King, etc. I like to use BBEG with tropes of Holy Healer, Monk Pacifist, Devotion Paladin, Druid of the Land, something that is usually seen as underwhelming for a good guy, but dangerously intimidating as a bad guy. So when a villain says, I really hate violence, I say roll initiative to be very intimidating and fun. But anyway, thank you for reading. Now everyone drink and have fun. Best regards, Steven from Serbia.
Cheers.
So, okay. I mean, I definitely think, we'll get into the overall argument, but I definitely think that, not argument, discussion, but I definitely think that it is good to play against types sometimes with villains. Like, I mean, there's a reason why Cardinal Richelieu is like one of the better villains in all of literature, because because I think like up until, like there's a certain point in history where like, typically we still saw like people of faith being presented like priests and things like that as like the good characters and stories, like allegories and stuff like that of like Middle Ages literature when it was all very much controlled by the church or whatever. So for Dumas to be like, oh, the cardinal is actually the really greedy villain one was like a really big subversion and like that kind of thing. I mean, I'm sure that was like already happening a lot in stories by that point because we'd already gone through the Inquisition and stuff like that. But still, like it is like it's a subversion of like the typical trope, especially in older literature, is to have like leaders be good and like there's like a noble king and or a noble leader.
yeah.
This is a great email. This is a super fun email. I love this question. How do you make them? Well, look, I'll just give my couple of cents real quick, and we can go back and forth about this. What are ways to foreshadow how dangerous the villain is? Just say it.
Yeah.
This guy is super fucking bad. This guy's thing is he wants to use an army to take over the land. Like, I think it's sometimes okay to like break the immersion or the fourth wall and just say, like, I to basically announce, hey, here's what's going to happen if y'all don't stop this person. I think it's good to set those stakes.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's nice to find an in-world way to deliver that.
Yes.
Like, you know, the person with the looking glass is like, oh no, I see them burning a village. They're going to burn our village next. You know, like, but I think it's also totally okay to take a pause and be like, hey gang, let's talk about this. I think you just want to be aware that if you don't do this, the village is going to burn next. Just so everybody's like just not confused about what's going to happen next. I think that's like just say it out loud.
Yeah. Even if you don't like, even if you as a DM, I like your approach 100%. If you don't want to just go, hey guys, just this guy's a real bad dude. You can do that in character as well. You can have like rumors talking about like, oh, the conquering army is coming through, or like, hey, a lot of people are talking about how this guy is buying up property and kicking people out of their homes, whatever. If you want to do the Muppet thing, you could have like Scrooge walking around and have a whole city full of Muppets sing about how terrible Scrooge is. Like, you can do that kind of thing too. So you can have people you can have people in dialogue with characters talk about ways that this villain has impacted their life if they are a publicly known thing to be afraid of.
Show the victims of what, because like even like I think one of the interesting things about this character, that this villain character, is that he's someone that hates violence, but is not afraid to do it. Like that like I think that is a really interesting and cool dynamic. It's a very interesting one to bring into 5e. But I think that like just because you don't like violence does not mean you are not willing to use it. And,
Yeah.
and so, like, show the victims of his nonviolent efforts. Like, oh, he doesn't, like, the concept of debt does not exist without violence. If you are saying, hey, you owe me X amount of money, and if you don't pay it, I'm going to kick you out of your house. That's a violent threat. And so even if you pay the money and don't experience that violence, you were threatened with violence. And so, like, show the victims, like you said, and then, like, oh God, what was it? I think there was something about story that I wanted to say, and I have fully forgotten it. But yeah,
You'll think of it.
I'll remember it eventually.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I think that always going back to comic books in my brain, Lex Luthor is a great kind of reference for this kind of villain. Because there's no way that Lex Luthor is ever going to just beat Superman mano a mano. Like, that's just not a thing that's going to happen. So it's this interesting mix of Superman's morals as, like, the good guy that can kind of be, like, figure out how that reflects, like, your party and how their morals work, versus someone who is just really smart and really influential and really great at manipulation of many different layers of government and people and society at large to go against the person they dislike. So if you have a smarter, more brain type big bad, like, look how they do that in the comic books. A lot of times it's a slow burn till you find out that Lex Luthor is the actual one behind whatever's happening. Usually, Superman's like, oh, these big robots are attacking and stealing these random things throughout Metropolis or whatever it is. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of Superman. My Adventures with Superman is really good. Oh my God.
So good.
So good. So I binged it last night. And then, like, slowly but surely, then it's like, oh, okay, you finally catch the people with these big robots. That's weird. And then, oh, you figure out, oh, it's LexCorp tech and whatever it is. And it slowly leads up to all these other things that have been happening are because Lex Luthor has this plot or whatever it is. So working that way up to it, build that slow build, so it can sometimes make the big bad seem more powerful, even if they are not, like, physically imposing or a physical threat.
Yeah. I remembered my story thing. So the interaction that the party had with the villain, where the party technically succeeded in getting the prince back, is very interesting, because I think there's a lot of, like, story potential there, where this is a guy that you as the GM consider a bad guy. The party may not see him as that until their motivations are in conflict. And, like, that would be really interesting to play with, where your party is like, yeah, okay, this guy's, like, kind of shady, but, like, our motivations are in line, so maybe we do a few jobs for him. And then he starts, pushing their boundaries. He starts pushing them, he starts doing things or asking them to do things that go beyond what they are willing to do. And then you kind of push that moral quandary onto them, and it can really, like, it's a good villain moment when the players choose, oh, this guy is bad and we have to stop him, instead of just, like, the GM being like, here's a bad guy, fight him. If the players make the active choice to be, or the characters even, or both, make the active choice to be like, okay, this guy, like, did XYZ things that make us not like him / want to kill him, that I feel like is a much better motive. And it's hard to figure that out. You just got to really know what makes your players tick and makes your characters tick. But, like, I think that can be really fun, especially with, like, and I wouldn't even call this guy a morally gray villain, but an ambiguously motivated / capable villain.
Yeah, well, actually, going off of that point, I was actually just thinking of this. Maybe there's more to really dip into this, but, like, I'm not actually, one of the questions about, which is, like, what have you done differently, or how would you foreshadow this? I don't necessarily know how dangerous this person is. Actually, my question is, like, were they that dangerous? Like, if they wanted to do, like, have in a battle, find out that this person is really dangerous. Like, I don't know. I'm always of the mind, like, yeah, push your party to the point of TPK, down 2 or 3 characters, like, create a scenario in which people are like, whoa, that was extremely difficult, and then let them decide what they want to do. Or, to your point in the story-wise thing, it reminds me of There's an adventure in the Ghosts of Salt Marsh for 5e that has you needing to go to the lair of the lizard folk. And up until a certain point, the lizard folk are being positioned to be like, they're savage, they're beast, blah, blah. It's all of this sort of kind of coded racism, really. And then you realize, oh, there's like 2 or 3 different ways to actually approach this. You could just go in and just try to like fucking ethnically cleanse this place, essentially, right? But then you realize, oh, if I do that, I'm catering to the whims of this one person who hired to do that. So then you kind of go, oh, this person's got an agenda. So there's certain elements of like, you go into this lair and you go, these are not savage people. There's a culture. They're talking. They're all really intimidated by us. They all seem to be cowering in fear. What the fuck did we do? And you talk to them. So like it's like talking back to the both.
I played that story. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? And there's almost like there's like, it reminds me also in Game of Thrones when gosh, I don't remember any of the locations. I'm so sorry. But it's like when the dudes from the north go to the dudes to the south, and they go to like the central
Winterfell.
From Winterfell to the main to the
King's Landing.
King's Landing. Beautiful. And they're on King's Road. And they're getting really close to King's Landing, and they just see all of these people have been purged from King's Landing just along the road. So you're like, oh, this is so terrifying. It's just all of these people who've been expelled, who've been effectively deported or worse, you know, and they're just all these deprived, poor people on the road. And then you go into King's Landing, you're like, what the fuck's going on? So there's like ways to like sort of signal is like, is this guy bad? Well, there's the entire city is surrounded on the outskirts by people who've been unhoused. What does that mean? And so like, yeah, it's interesting. Like, how bad is this person is a good question. If we're talking about tactics, yeah, have a battle where almost everybody dies. If we're talking about story, I think having these moments where, or like Riley, you had a great example of like people are like, well, have you heard about what
rumors
or just the opposite. People are like, hey, so you know, so Steven from Serbia, and you're like, you know what? I don't want to be part of this conversation. People just walk away. You're like, what the fuck's going on? You know?
Yeah, it's like very much like in like cop shows when like people in neighborhoods like I got nothing to say about this. Like either because they don't want to talk to the cops, which is usually the case, but also because like if I get caught talking to you, the mob will take me down for talking to the cops. But I also think like going into this, like. I agree with you. I don't know yet why this villain is this dangerous. Like, is it dangerous because of the influence he has in this city and in this culture?
Yeah.
Or is it dangerous because he's too high of a CR for the current player level? Like, what are we meaning by what's too dangerous? Like, so based on just what we have here, I don't know the answer to that question.
Right. He's even described here as a cult-like leader of a small elite group.
Yeah.
He's an epic level monk with aspirations. So he's sort of talking about he's got this small.
Yeah.
You know.
So what makes him dangerous, and why would the party want to fight him?
Yeah.
It's like one of the things that I always try to think about when I run games is think about the players and characters' motivations and feed into those to create big bads and stuff like that. Because like one person's big bad is another person's hero, and vice versa. Yeah. And so like in order to really, if your players are just looking for a hack and slash, that's a very different thing. But if your players are looking for a story, if they're looking for that emotional, like catharsis, emotional drama and stuff like that of fighting a big bad that actually is like manipulative and intelligent and like a chess master and has motivations and is not afraid to achieve them, you have to figure out how to position them in the narrative in a way that pits them against the players / characters and causes conflict. Otherwise, they're not going to be a big bad. They're just going to be another NPC along the way. Yeah. And so it's all about narrative positioning. I'm a story person, so like whenever I think about like TTRPGs, I'm always thinking about story. Sorry. Mechanics, who are they? But like,
they fix cars and.
Riley, I'm sorry I interrupted you before you were. What makes this person?
I lost my train of thought. So
sorry.
I do want to build on something Cody said about like what's a hero to someone and a villain to somebody else. I will say that based on what Steven said about wanting to go with like different tropes for who the big BBEG is, like I do think that a way you can do that is by not having them just be overtly like. Oh, they're sending all refugees out of town. That's the first time you hear about that. That is a great suggestion for that exact story. But to go back to like Kimmy's thing about Lex Luthor, there are so many versions of Superman where up until you find out Lex Luthor is a villain, I mean, we all know as audience members, but up until he's revealed as a villain, he seems like a philanthropist who has all these great lofty goals or whatever. And then, then he might fund a certain candidate to be president. Anyway, fictional. But yeah, I think like, I think a great example of it is especially the first season of the Daredevil TV series, the original one, where like that show could have been called Kingpin because it's as much about him as it is about Daredevil, and like it does frequently he presents himself as I just want to take care of this city. I want to make this city stronger and protect this city. It just happens that his way of doing it involves very like violent and controlling and dominant means, and also will hurt a lot of people in the long run if they if allowed to do that. So like that, like similar with like in Arrow's first season, like the whole season arc is there's this thing called the Undertaking that's going to end up killing a lot of people, but the people who are doing it think they're doing something that ultimately will help the city. Or it's like Ozymandias in Watchmen of like, oh, I'm going to murder millions of people, and he does, but he thinks he's doing it for a reason that is, like, noble. So, like, a way that you can also, like, if you're going to subvert these tropes, a way that you can do it also is by making the villain somebody the players interact with on a regular basis in the story, and maybe at first they seem like they're a good person, or they have, like, good motivations, and slowly pepper in, like, the means of how they're achieving what they think is their, like, utopian ideals will actually be really harmful, and like that can really twist the knife in to get players like invested in bringing them
You're
down.
going to ties into what you were saying, Cody, about like it's you kind of playing the table.
Yes.
Your people, you know.
Yes.
I think also one of the important aspects of that is it can also like kind of turn the tables on the party, because like Kingpin's a good example. Most of the people in the city thought Kingpin was a good person.
Yeah.
So that kind of like hampers the direct action that your party can take, because this person is seen as a good person and a hero to the most of the populace. So if they just go in and punch him in the face, they're going to seem like the villains.
Yeah.
So there's always that cool kind of like gray area. Then the party's like, no, this person everybody loves is terrible. We have to, you know, and then it gives them different layers of action they need to take rather than just like capturing the bad guy.
Yeah.
They have to also like find a way to reveal their actual plot and show the truth of the situation to everyone, so that they're not just thrown in prison for punching like this upstanding citizen in the face, you know.
It's on my mind recently because the musical version, the stage musical, just went to Disney Plus. But like in Frozen, like Hans seems like such a great sweet boy for the first half of that movie, and like even has like the sweet romantic love song. And it turns out the whole time, even things he's doing that seem like they're on behalf of Arendelle are actually him maneuvering himself into power.
Yeah.
So that when he finally says, "If only there was someone who loved you," you're like, "Oh, you monster!"
You were
yeah,
so bad.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great example too.
Yeah.
And I think they're in a lot of ways having that the villain be like not the physical jock type is oftentimes so much more interesting. And it can be done, but you also have to then make the story a bit more complicated, so it's not just point A to point B for your players. Yeah.
There's, you guys remind me of I think in season 2 or season 3 of Breaking Bad is when you meet Gus Fring of
Oh my gosh,
Hood
yes.
Law. And the way you meet him, you're just like, this is the most like bunned up, like absolute
working at a
nice
fast food place,
you know,
yeah.
he might as like he almost sounds like an android. Like he just has he's so corporate. He donates to all the causes. But I feel like tonally there's something really fun about that character, because when Walter White interacts with him for the first time and kind of threatens him, Gus Fring is so patient and so calm. Just says, do it. And you're just like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
There's something else going on here. This is not okay. And so it's interesting. You could bring in people who seem and of course not a jock type at all, but there is an element of like the mystery of what this person is capable of. Sometimes the not knowing, I think it adds power.
Yeah.
The leverage of what they don't know what they're up against.
Yeah, and that utter fearlessness, when that like that's a great example of them like oh, we're gonna destroy you, we're gonna lock you up, and have them just be like, do it.
Yeah.
No, like one of the scariest kinds of villains are the kinds of people who are so self-assured in not only their own motivations, but their own means to achieve those motivations, that they do not regret what they do. They just do it. And anyone who challenges them, it's like, yeah, go ahead. it will last on, it will go on without me. I have plans in place, or like it's the scariest thing a villain can be is not just competent but dedicated.
Yes, absolutely.
I do want to say, if you are going the more traditional route of like, this person's a villain and I want them to be scary when I meet them, I think the best way you can do that, and there's a little bit of it in here already, but I think like just, there's a reason why Bond villains hang out in volcanoes and have sharks and things like that.
Yeah.
Is that just a little bit of opulence in your scene descriptions will go a long
Bye.
way.
Presentation.
Yes.
Has been a mindset.
Find a drama. Speaking of our traveler's talents here, if you find a drama queen, like if you're a villain, like not to say that it wouldn't be scary to have a villain like Gus Fring in an unassuming office in the back of a fast food restaurant, because obviously there is. But I would say also a villain who is in a room with like fire jets and a throne of bones that's sitting up over a blood pile. Like it's just like, I mean, like you're gonna know like at a certain point where you can put a hat on a hat on a hat. And also I think, for me, a cheat, too, is that when I do the voices for my villains, I channel people that have successfully played the kind of characters that I want this villain to embody. And, like, I'm not a great impressionist, but, like I frequently use Cate Blanchett as, like, my, like, as, like, a calm, quiet, like, stern woman and, like,
Ice
that kind
Queen.
of thing. Yeah, like, I think, like, that's a way to do it as well, is, like, just really, like, lay into your role play and really lay into your scene descriptions. And also, for the TPK thing, I also think I've done this in the past where I've had players who go up against a person who's too powerful for them at this point in the game. And, like, instead of just TPKing them, if they all go unconscious, I had them wake up, like, in a cell somewhere.
Yeah.
Or I, like, find a way. Like, you don't need a Deus Ex Machina, per se. You can just rule it as, like, okay, you got knocked out, and then this person either, like, jumped you on the street somewhere, or threw you in jail, or threw you in a prison, or something like that.
Yeah, as the GM, you can do whatever you want. You can at any point say, and a train runs through the entire scene and all the players, all of you die. You can do that as a GM. You don't do that because you want the other players to have fun. If the players are not going to have fun if they get TPK'd, figure out a way to not TPK them, even if they would mechanically, because what matters more is the players, not the game.
Yeah. And that's just, honestly, we've been on this question for a while, so I'm sure we
Yeah, no, it's good. I just do want to be clear. We do not recommend here at the Happy Jacks RPG podcast that you have a train run through and TPK all your plays. No, I'm just kidding. That was the joke.
Do you need a disclaimer for that?
Please don't run a train on your play.
Do it. Do it. Do it. You won't.
I know it's the end of Pride Month, but still.
Yeah. We are not sponsored by the LA train system. Okay.
If we
We're
were,
not
if
sponsored by
we
the
were,
trolley
we wouldn't be done yet.
So, but I did want to say,
process.
but I did want to say, not in defense of TPKs, but actually, I just wanted to point out, because this is one thing that thank you for bringing this up, the Deus Ex Machina of it. I have to say, I think that gives me a bit of a look into, this is just generalization, but look into the type of preparation or type of thinking that this GM might be doing, which is in some ways putting the soft gloves on.
Yeah.
And sort of saying my players can't handle this thing. And so I need to be ready to save them. And I think there is a little bit to say, let's figure out the ways for players to save themselves. I think it's a great example. Yeah, it would be a TPK, but then they wake up in a cell, so they're not actually dead. But now they have to figure this out. You know, like
They've lost all their stuff.
Yeah. I would say I think that's a
public
recommendation, like preparing yourself for a session. I think it's healthy to sort of say the players might be way smarter than I am anticipating.
And with the caveat of safety tools matter and making sure the players have consented to this already, I don't think it's the worst thing to, Rose pointed out, consent before anything train related. That's fair. But I think that with safety tools in place, with the understanding that everyone knows this is a possibility going in, I think it's the worst thing to kill at least one of the characters.
Yeah.
I think that if people
Give
engage in
them
a fight,
stakes.
I've been running D&D at a summer camp the last few weeks. I started the gig last year, and this year I'm doing it full time. It all happened according to the rules of D&D, but I had a player whose character died yesterday because they've been hunting pirates, and they got caught. Like, the pirates figured out who they were and are now tracking them down. And I had a whole elaborate thing, and I built this really dangerous, like, kill box for them that the pirates set up for them. And one of the kids chose to, in the middle of a combat, open a box in the area where I had set a bunch of traps, and one of the traps set off and killed him and character. And he failed all his death saves, and that character died. And like I was like, and these are kids. I'm playing with kids.
Yeah.
But I was like, hey, if you start opening up trapped boxes in the middle of the combat that these pirates set up to kill you, like, I'm not going to save you. And it was very much like, it was a fun, and everybody, like, he had a good time, the whole table had a good time, and it made them go, oh, these pirates mean business. And now, like, when we get into the story picking up this coming week, I'm sure that now there's going to be, like, a little bit more motivation of, like, no, now we have to hunt the last pirate crew down to get, like, because if we don't, they're going to keep killing people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Establishing stakes
Amazing.
and establishing, like,
yeah.
It can also be like the coolest, most memorable thing sometimes. Like there's some characters like I don't remember anything about, but there's some characters I remember so well because they died in this epic manner.
Yeah.
So sometimes like years later as gamers, those are the things we love too. So it's not always a bad thing to have character death.
I had a character who died in a really epic way, and then somebody did like a Deus Ex Machina to kind of save her. And I kind of, to this day, I'm like, I wish that I kind of retired that character for that. Because like, no, that really felt like the end of that character for me. And I like after that, I wasn't interested in playing her anymore.
Yeah.
Like, no, that felt like the end of her arc. So yeah.
To me, more than like needing consent for the train, you also really need to like have consent to revive someone.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
absolutely super important because sometimes that's such a great moment and then it feels like you feel robbed. Like I've had that happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I got revived by an out of game. It was like a thing that we had gotten as a charity award that like gave us like our health back or whatever, and someone poured it in my character's mouth when she was dying, and it was like I get it, but I was like, oh, I really liked her death here being
Yeah.
what happened. But
Sometimes you want to go out taking the train, you know, and that's no one should take that away from you.
yeah, it's like, you know what? I play a lot of Final Fantasy VI. Sometimes I'm in that woods, Dorn's been poisoned. I want to hop on that train with my wife and my kid. You know.
Correct.
It's also why we don't do like participation, like people donate money for saves and stuff in our games when we do our actual plays. 'Cause
Yeah. This was like an
Pretty
extra
raw.
life thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's the point of those. Yeah, for sure.
Like extra life, the actual extra life charity.
Yeah. That's what I figured. Yeah. So it's like, okay, but still.
Yeah.
Can I take the money and still die, please?
I did. I had a kid. So we this is like we move on to this because this is more about my summer camp thing. But I had a kid yesterday who earlier in the week we when we do the outdoor enrichment activities, like I give prizes that benefit them in game, and one of the prizes that I have is like this gives you one of the effects of a long rest, not all of them, but you either get your health back, you get your spell slots back or whatever, one time per week. And there was a kid who was at 2 failed death saves, and then he remembered he had this, and he felt great about that. It's like, oh my god, I got this, now I'm back on my feet, and now the whole battle flipped on a dime because of that. And like that was like kind of fun to have that work.
Oh,
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So it's like the outside stuff that person did, like earned them things. And that's so cool. It's like a LARP and a tabletop game.
Yeah.
Like that is so neat.
Yeah, it's our way of like making sure we get the kids outside in a little bit. It's like otherwise they're playing games for 5 hours straight, which is great, but like summertime, let's get
And they're
running around a
kids.
little bit.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's also cool because like they earned it themselves. So it wasn't.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't like you just pulled it out of a hat because you didn't want them to die. Like they did a thing.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this character's about to die too. Oh, he was the first one about to die, and somebody reminded him he had that long rest thing, and he goes, he was so excited that it worked, and he brought it up, and I was like, oh my gosh, you are lucky.
So
And
cool.
yeah, it was
That's
very
so
funny.
cool.
Can I take your camp? Or are there age restrictions?
There is an age restriction. I think the parents of the kids might be not
Yeah.
happy if
Yeah.
adults were just sitting down.
I'll wear Janko jeans.
Oh, then you'll be
Will that
fine.
help?
Yeah, you'll be fine. Yes, the kids will have any idea what that is. Yeah.
Amazing. All right, mailbag number 2. Who
I
would like to
can
read this one? Okay.
I can take it. All right, mailbag 2. Hey there, ho there, hi there. Are we jacker as can be?
Sit up a little bit.
Okay, sorry. Let me. Hey there, ho
There
there.
you go.
Are we jacker as can be? I was listening to season 35, episode 20, and there was a brief discussion of safety tools, which triggered a thought. The initial engagement of new multi-session or continuing campaign should, in my honest opinion, be a two-way street. While lines and veils are critical for player safety, there are going to be some games which are going to be difficult to run based on some of the responses, mostly horror-themed games. I think the person running the game, pen and paper, LARP, whatever, needs to put together what I call a gamer mission statement. State which game you want to run, or give a choice of options, the theme, and the general maturity level, PGR, etc. This is cats. Putting down basic expectations could help players know if they even want to join. For example, if I'm running a Call of Cthulhu set in an insane asylum, having a line veil of mental illness would be incompatible with such a setting. Respecting the boundaries of the players is critical, but I think the safety tools really needs to set expectations before the lines veil sheet even goes out. You're right. For example, hey, I want to run a horror game set in an undersea research lab. Claustrophobia, pressure amongst the PCs, and sea life, i.e. probably tentacles, will all be part of the setting. I'm expecting this to run 3 to 4 sessions with options open for more. I'm partial to this game system, but open to negotiate. Anyway, thoughts, comments? I feel that expectations are almost as critical as lines veils, so that there is informed consent on the topic. From the Highlands of Boulder Creek, Dobby. You're correct, and there are so many safety tools out there that do it. One of them is cats, and also just being able to pitch your game, like, in a way, like, pitching your game honestly and completely is so important to getting the right people playing your game. And you're right. You're just right. You're just right. Sorry.
Thank you for being right, Tavi.
Thank you for being right, Dobby.
Okay. Well, first of all, I felt a million years old because the opening of this line is an old Mickey Mouse Club theme song lyric, and Cody didn't know what it was, so that made me go, oh, I just aged into ashes and dust.
I'm a baby.
I'm too foreign to recognize that.
Yeah, what do you have? It's hey there, hi there, ho there, are we Jacker as can be.
Oh,
Right.
I do know it. I do know it.
Okay. Oh,
Did I just yell into your ear? I'm sorry.
no.
Sorry,
Okay.
it's okay.
When we're excited, friends, let's lean back from the
Yes,
mic.
sorry.
That's okay.
The one thing I'll disagree with on Dabby's email here is this comment about if I'm running a Call of Cthulhu set in a insane asylum, having a line of veil elements would be incompatible with such a setting. Oh, that's exactly the time you need a line and veil, because someone might be cool with it in a like cartoonish or in a like, you know, a Lovecraftian way, that they might not be in it in a way that's like more in line with realistic portrayals of insanity. And so like that is why having that that's exactly why you need to have lines and veils for this exact scenario, because a line and veil are two different things, and someone might say like, hey, I would like to like talk about this, and how can we find a way, because I have definitely had times as a DM or as a GM or as a storyteller in this case, where I've had things that are integral to the plot that somebody has a line or veil for, but it's not a thing where it's like, I cannot play it, this is in the game, but can we talk about it? Like, you know, this is not the same as this example, but like I've run Lost Mines of Foundelver a bunch of times in D&D, and a major part of the plot involves a villain called the Spider, and as a result, the Spider has a lot of minions that are spiders. And so I have had players who have said, hey, I'm very arachnophobic. I do not want spiders involved in this story. And so I could be like, well, then you can't play this game at all. But no, instead I say, okay, do you feel the same way about mechanical spiders or like constructs? And usually they're like, no, it's actually just real spiders. It's like, for some reason, it's like not real. And so I literally, during the pandemic, I was running this game on a VTT, and I just went through the like pre-planned maps I had. I deleted every spider, and I replaced them with the icon of Penny Parker and the spider bot from Spider-Verse, and I put those in instead. I go, okay, from now on, these are like constructed spiders. They're automatons that have been resurrected or been created by this villain as like run through magic. And so that was a way that I was able to maintain the story and put that in there. And the same thing with Call of Cthulhu. Like, the insanity system in Lovecraft is not real insanity. It's like, it's very problematic at times, but it's designed to be like otherworldly alien things coming through. And so like, can you talk to your players about a way to make that work?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, literally the spider thing, I am not as arachnophobic as my other friend who, we are all playing in a Spire campaign. And in Spire, you are playing drow who are persecuted and oppressed in the city, and one of the major things of the drow culture is midwives and spiders and spider stuff. One of our players is deeply arachnophobic. I don't like spiders either, so I think we changed it to like scorpions or something. And even still, we just don't have a lot of that content in the game. Like, it's cool lore, but we just like don't really touch on that. And nobody chose to play a midwife, which would be one of the classes that would interact with that Inspire. And so it's like there are a lot of ways to go around, get around what you would think is limitations on this sort of thing. But the most important thing is to just talk to your players, which, you know, it's kind of preaching to the choir, but the most important thing, the safety tools are not just slap them down, write it out, and then you're done. They're meant to be conversation starters. Like, it's
a living document.
Exactly.
And go ahead.
Oh, well, we actually had a cool conversation about this on the Happy Jacks Discord recently, because people were talking about, we have Happy Jack's Lines and Veils document, but it's more gradients.
Yeah,
so
it's
like
really cool.
I'm slowly perfecting it. But some people were giving me some suggestions, and one of the things that they suggested, which I'm gonna do in between updating all the files for all of our episodes like ever, is add like an intrinsic column. So there's like a gradient of obviously things that are X, like no, it cannot be in, can be in, but not for my character, can be in, but not for other PCs. It can exist in the world, but won't be part of our thing. But people suggested adding a column for intrinsic, because then there's things that, like, if there's something that is part of the system that like, you can't really, like, they use the example of like vampire. If someone has a problem with blood, you probably don't want to play a vampire, RPG.
Yeah.
Something like that. So, like, you click the things that are intrinsic on the sheet. So people who are signing up, if they're like, oh, no problem, I love horror things. Oh, we have to talk about blood. Maybe it's not for me. So that way it also gives them an opportunity for two-way communication from the GM. Like, these are the things that I can't cut out of the system or I want to have included.
Yeah.
So then when people go to fill it out, they can be like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't the game for me. So.
There's something that Davi mentioned about, just I think to a question about expectations. So it was something that dawned on me in my home Discord, is that people are always like thinking of playing different games, and people started talking about like, oh, I'm really, I don't want to do one shots anymore. I want to run some campaigns. And something that I think sets expectations really well is I just asked everyone in Discord, say, hey, listen, I think the rule is going to be, if you want to run a campaign, make sure you've either had a session to just explain people rules, or run a one shot of it. Because then you're going to get at least buy-in as to like the game. So you're not just consigning somebody to, oh, here's an unlimited amount of sessions. So people want to get it. And then I actually created this rubric, and this sort of kind of made it my like sort of game one sheet. And it basically is like, are you looking at one shot? Are you looking for 3 episodes? Are you thinking for 10 episodes? And within that, I also included like likely content, likely content warnings.
Yeah.
So I've been running a lot of like Mothership recently. So it's like, all right, well, it's going to be like androids, it might be like disfigurement, it might be limbs, blah blah blah. So that they know what it is. And along with that, I mean, if you're doing something like this, or I don't know if you're creating this for like a community, a group of friends, Davi, but like you could also include links to explanations how this works, maybe explanations, links to rules. So just like things that people can access and feel like they go, oh, I know exactly what I'm getting into, and now I can sort of weigh in on it. In terms of the thing about Lines and Veils, same deal. Like I borrowed the Lines and Veils from Happy Jacks for my Discord, and I make sure everybody fills it out, and make sure they fill it out for all their campaigns. But also, I voice out loud before every session, hey, this game has this stuff going on in it. And also just sort of like, and if anything comes up that we didn't mention, let's like axe it out, let's axe it out or call it out in the moment, however we want to do, however people decide they want to deal at the table. But I think that is that kind of thing, is like, you can't really, prepare for all of it. It's, I think also overall it becomes good practice. It gets everybody comfortable with saying, oh, here's what I like, what I don't like. Oh, this game sounds fun, but it's not for me. This content, could we, X this stuff out?
I love your idea of a one sheet, and I've seen a couple cons now start having that. You don't list just the title and like the plot idea and like the system. They actually have like a warnings box too, where you write some stuff that is like intrinsic to the system you want to run or the story you want to run. Because it's hard, because before a con you can't really do Lines and Veils, because you can do it like once people get to the table. But it's not like ahead of time with the sign-up forms on most conventions when a bunch of strangers are signing up for your game. You can't like send it out like you can the way in like a Discord or with your friends or whatever. So it's always nice to have those little warnings, so when you're scrolling through about what you want to play or what you want to run, nobody ends up signing up for there's a lower chance of people signing up for something that's a bad match for them.
It's also, those content warnings can act as things that draw people in.
Yes.
It's kind of, it's just like, it's like tags on Archive of Our Own. Like, don't read, dead job, do not eat, etc.
I actually, this is not to be shady, this is to me specifically, because I was trying to weed certain particular players out. When I was a Strategicon the last time, the games that I ran, all the descriptions at the end said, LGBTQIA plus, like just so you know that this game is going to be extremely queer.
It self-selects.
But exactly, so people are like, oh, I don't want to. Well, then great, I don't want to have anything to do. Fantastic, you find something that fits for you. But if you don't want to enjoy anything to do with queer stuff, then
You can't make everyone happy, so don't.
can't be at this table. Yeah.
And then also on the opposite of that, kind of an example of Davi's thing is like sometimes stories that involve marginalized groups, depending on the voice of who's running them, may involve things that make those groups uncomfortable in ways that are ultimately for good reasons, for storytelling reasons. Like an example for our network that I can use is Hexbreakers, of like, there was a lot of transphobia in Hexbreakers in character, but it was obviously a game run by a trans DM and with a trans player at the table and like multiple trans players at the table. And we knew going in this was going to be an element of the show. We had conversations about that. So like that's like a good example of like sometimes somebody who might have been like, I know plenty of trans gamers who are like Sam DeLev, for example, they've been on record as saying like they want their fantasy to be better than their reality, and I'm not saying Sam's never played a game with transphobia in it, but I know like that's a thing that they say is very important to them and valid, but like Sam might not have wanted to play in that game for that reason.
Yeah.
And like that's I think maybe more what Davi meant, and maybe I just saw this one example. It's like, wait, hang on a second, but like, yeah, I think that like it's valid to not want to be part of that, but it's also valid like it's also okay for a GM to run a game that has content in it that not everybody is going to want to play with. But it is a responsibility to have these kinds of conversations ahead of time to say this will be in the game, like with mental insane asylum aspect of it, with Call of Cthulhu, like there's a lot of movies out there that take place in mental hospitals and things like that, and they really run the gamut of what I'm okay with and what I'm not okay with. Like if it's some of them are like kind of like set in a, I don't know, I don't want to go down this road because I'm afraid I'm going to say something accidentally problematic, but like I think there are some like fictional depictions of those spaces that I would be comfortable playing with in a game, but if there were like other versions of them that I'd be like, oh no, this is fine because it does not feel like real world to me, those monsters and things like that.
It can also shift from game to game. Like I have some problems with like depictions of child abuse in games, but when I'm playing a game about kids being in danger or kids having run away or something like that, I'm gung ho for that because I expect that going in, or like I understand that I like. It is not like, and it's also about trusting the people at your table. Like, if you don't trust the people at your table to be able to portray these things in a sensitive and like at least aware manner, like you don't have to be perfect, but you gotta be like, oh yeah, I messed up, sorry, won't do that again, and then just move on, and it's fine. And like, and if you like, you gotta trust the people at the table to be able to do that. And then also, it depends on the game. It depends on the day. It can change.
Yeah, I think that's why having that kind of the cats or whatever system you're using ahead of time too, because there's tables with people I know that I really like that I am I'm not going to be willing to do some things, and then there's tables of people I know I'm super close. Whatever. Like I'm down for whatever at that table. Yeah, and I think that changes depending on who's sitting there, and having that agreement up front, I think really helps. And it's just whatever form that takes.
I have way stricter lines and veils if I'm playing a one shot where I don't know people, especially like a streaming show, especially if it's for an audience. Than I do. Like a good example of what you were saying with the child. I also have a very strict like no child violence, like no, like, and I'm very like especially I'm with an unfamiliar group, I'm very firm about this. Like I don't want this. But like tomorrow I'm playing in a charity stream for a channel that I've done a thing for almost every year, and we're doing like a silly mystery game, and the character concept I thought up was a plucky child detective, and so that's what I'm playing. So I can't really be like, hey, in this game we can't ever have any child in danger because I'm playing the child that's going to be getting herself into danger. And like, but I also trust the GM of that game
Riley
to
on
not.
God mode.
What's that?
Riley on God mode.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, well, it's one thing when I as a players as a DM have really strict lines and veils about animal cruelty.
Yeah.
And I've been at some tables where that's been abused, but I've also or that's been ignored, and I've had to kind of reach out and be like, hey, can you please stop doing this? It's really upsetting me. But I also, as a DM, I play with kids a lot. And kids love to have pets in games. They love to get pets. They love to get animals that are their pets. And so I make it very clear to the kids. I go, look, I don't like to hurt animals. So if you have your animal in the game, I will leave them alone and I will keep them alive unless you start using them as weapons in fights. If you start having your pets join you in combat and fight and bite enemies and stuff like that, then I will have people attack them. So please, if you want to have pets for storytelling and fun, cute reasons, you are welcome to do so. But if you think having a pet means you get this free attack round, then I will not hesitate to kill your pets.
I feel like that's like you teaching kids to take care of their pets.
Just setting expectation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look, you want this axolotl on your belt, then you have to feed him and take care of him and not make him be part of the combat. Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah.
One bit to empower and encourage Davi, because Davi, this is great, and I'm so glad that this is stuff that you're bringing into your games, your subconscious stuff. Is I think this could all be very overwhelming to be okay, I got to keep track of is this person offended? Is this person a lot of this stuff you can't necessarily predict, and somebody might reach out to you afterwards, and it's kind of hard, right? But again, I think setting up the circumstances for success is wonderful. If you kind of, carte blanche, just say, hey, here's what we're gonna do, here's what we're not gonna do. And I think again, like Cody, that you were saying, session to session, 2 or 3 sessions in, it's great to just to have a check-in. I even actually, this is something I started doing on my Discord as well. Every 2 or 3 sessions, I ask people to fill out a stars and wishes thing, to be hey, just while we're doing it. And one of the things you could say is, I don't know if this is really for me anymore. Great, good to know. We're just playing games. We're just gonna keep moving around. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah. And I think also having, to add on what you're saying, a line of communication with your players, if something, even before the stars and wishes, let them know they always have the X card option or something where in the moment if something's oh, I didn't expect this to affect me the way that it has.
Yeah.
I want to use that there. And I've learned recently that you need to have especially with, again, I mostly have been playing with kids lately, but I did have to have a very frank conversation about the purpose of the X card this week, because I definitely started noticing one kid in particular was using the X card not for things that would, because I'm usually pretty open with the X card, whatever you need to use it for, use it for. But he was using it in a way that was trying to push the story in directions he wanted it to go instead of, so for example, we had, like I said, they were hunting pirates this week, and early in the week on Tuesday they had fought these pirates. On Wednesday they still had a pirate that they had tied up and they were keeping hostage, and he knew their characters were trying to keep this pirate alive to get the bounty on them, and he was afraid the other players were going to torture and kill this pirate, so he X-carded it, and I thought he was X-carding it I'm afraid of torture. I'm yes, I don't really want torture in this game anyway, so I will support your X-card. I'm also, I also make it very clear, we don't debate and argue the X-card. If the X-card's out, that's the end of the conversation about it. But then it was there was 2 characters that were tied up. There was a captain and another pirate, and he was so they were talking to the captain, and they were he was no, you can't, I don't want torture. I don't want torture. And I was okay, you're X-carding this? Yes, so X-card, so no torture. And then he's well, you can torture this one. And I go, wait, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you can torture the other one because we won't get in trouble for killing this one. And I went, buddy, you can't use the X card to force other players to just do the things you want their characters to do. That's not how this
I have a conversation either above table or in character. That's. And it can be hard because kids are figuring out boundaries,
100%.
figuring out stuff, and so
in life,
and
just
just
table.
and
there was a lot of that week. I will say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're I think you're editing, and that might be a symptom of your main character syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's when you need a spray bottle for them.
But it reminded me of okay, when you're talking about safety tools, make sure the players understand the purpose of them and the proper usage of them.
I think there is an element of you can kind of use the X card to do those, I guess, edits, but it should be for tone stuff. It should 100%. Be for if it's it's hard because I know that I used to be a kid that was very much I want the story to go the way that I want it to go, and I've grown out of that. But it's hard to break out of that when you don't know that and it's also hard to be well, I want it to go this way because if it doesn't go this way, then it feels like the world is ending.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, that's a bigger problem. Okay.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know. I think using the X card for story stuff is possible, but it has to be, it like anything, it's like, yeah. And I honestly, like, this is something that I overheard Megwee Baker talking about, and something I agree with her on, but for personal, like, stuff, where, like, the X card, I always have the X card in a lot of games that I happen to run, because I happen to run in a lot of groups or at conventions, and we have the X card just as a baseline safety tool. I don't like the X card because it freaks me out when someone says, I don't want this, and then we don't talk about why. Like, that scares me, because that's that's just how, like, no safety tool is going to be as all size fit one, and no safety tool should be. We're all very different people with very different ways of dealing with different things. And so like, it's, if the X card doesn't work at your table, that's okay. Use a different tool. It's allowed.
Yeah.
And so like, it's just, I don't know. It's like what do you call it? Accessibility. No accessibility solution will work for every person who deals with that inaccessibility issue. Yeah. And it's like, you gotta learn how to work with the individuals and communicate and figure that stuff out. It's not easy, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
I feel like here, and maybe it's been a while since I've done a stream that's an in-character stream, but like our actual play stream. But I feel like we have the X card, but we don't really have a one or nothing. Like, we kind of have like it's like we talk about, we either do the X card and we either like we can talk about it, we can talk about it on camera if we want to, or we can take a break and be like, hey, we'll be right back and we'll talk about it on camera, or we can say like, let's just move on for the edit for the scenes. Like, we kind of give, in the shows that I've been involved in, we give people the freedom to do it. I will say, I love the X card as an option, but as a player who occasionally gets triggers, I'm not good at using it, because I feel like when I feel shut down at the table, the last thing in the world I have the capability of doing is going, okay, now I'm gonna push a button to make sure everybody knows how upset I am. Like, it's like I tend to, like, unfortunately for me, I wish I was better at using the X card. I'm good at it as a GM. When I'm GMing, if I feel like something is going off the rails or something is veering on the side of being inappropriate, I'm going, hey guys, let's X card this or whatever. And like, I have a couple minor things that like affect me in a physical way that I'll X card, but when it comes to like something that's like actually like triggering for me, I tend to just shut down for a while when we're playing when it happens instead, and then I get upset, and then that's way worse. But like, I wish that I was better in the moment, like when I'm actually like bothered, to be able to go like, hey guys, I'm bothered.
And it's hard. It's hard to know. It's funny. You were talking about kids, like, and their kind of main character syndrome. My daughter is right in that age now where she's starting to do imaginary play with her friends, but they are at the point where like, no, you're playing wrong. Like, where they both have their idea of how the story should go, and they're not good at, they don't have the tools. They're like 5. So like, they don't have the tools to like negotiate or like pivot or improv in any way. It's like, no, I'm the princess who's doing this, or I am the caterpillar who's going to turn into the pretty butterfly, or whatever it is. And any deviation from like what they have planned is very upsetting. And I'm just like, just get them little X cards and like.
I mean, it's honestly, do it. Like,
No, but I agree. The X card is, but again, just the option of having it there, I think, it solves a ton of stuff, because people are like, well, if something.
It's the emergency brake.
I did have a session recently of Mothership where, as I was about to, somebody rolled something, I was about to describe something, and I go, fuck me. I forgot to talk about the content that we should be bothered, because we'd already been talking about it on the Discord, and then suddenly we were playing, and I was like, there's not going to be any harm to kids, but would anybody have a problem with Android children who are truly uncanny and weird looking? Is anybody going to be okay with that? And people are like, oh yeah, as long as they're Androids. And I'm like, great. So this Android child climbs out of this cryopod, and like, but I just, in the moment, I was like, is everybody okay with this? Do you guys want to access? Like, I actively said, do you guys want to access out? And people were like, no, let's keep going. I was like, okay, great. But like, that's and the thing is, I think as a GM,
kids some spinach.
As a GM, you really can just to model it. Do it a couple of times during a session. 100%. Does anybody want to access?
And that's
keep going.
Something that happened to me, because I also do that same thing where I, like, when something triggers me, I either get like really quiet and really withdrawn, or I get more belligerent, which is also not great.
I've been there. Yeah, that too.
But like, I've been in a situation before where someone noticed that and was like, hey, I think what I'm doing is upsetting you. Do you want an X card? And I was like, and I didn't want to make a big deal of it. And then she was like, no, I'm going to exit.
Yeah.
And that's why I always have the O card, which is a lot of people use it as like a hell yes card. I just am like, if just say hell yes, I use the O card. I put it on the back of the X card, and I say, if you're worried about someone, if someone's crying during role play, or if you're like worried that what you're doing is upsetting someone, like, you can turn it over to the O card and be like, hey, let's pause. Are you okay? And they can either be like, yeah, I'm actually fine. Don't worry about it, and turn it back over to the X card to indicate let's continue. Or they can be like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. I am a little off. And like, and that's something that I've tried to incorporate with the X card, because the X card is not only a good tool, it's a required tool at a lot of places that I play and run games at. So I try to incorporate that into help me, at least. And I don't think I've had anyone use the O card yet.
It's funny because I just use the X card for that. Like, I'll tap it and I'll be like, "Are you okay?" Like, I use it as like a pause button. I don't know why.
Yeah. No, and
I think I would be confused if we were using the O card for it. So I'm like, if the O card means you're really into this, so like, why?
But that's why each group has its own culture, and like everyone has to. Like, we had a conversation, like, I think it was 2 seasons ago, where we all talked about, like, what we saw. I forget which safety tool it was, and, like, how it's used differently.
Yeah.
And, like, different people at the table, even though we all used the safety tool, had a different understanding of what it was based on our play groups.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of interesting. And I guess, and that's why, like, like going back to what Davi said, like, having that conversation about the intent and stuff like that, but also just, like, baseline, hey, just so we all know, this is how this is used.
No
like,
safety tool is a full substitute for good communication.
Right. Well, and also, you need to talk about how you use the safety tool. Just because everyone uses the same names for things doesn't mean they use the same. Like, if you go somewhere and you say, hey, we're playing football, depending where you are in the world, you're going to get very different ideas of what that game is.
One is wrong.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, means the Americans cannot be saying.
Hey, I'm wearing
I'm agreeing with the rest of the world.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
I'm in my Angel City Football Club shirt right now, which made me think of it.
Yeah.
But so, like, again, like, we just, like, the terminology, like, the use of everything just needs to kind of be zeroed and baseline so everyone has understanding at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm going to step up real quick for a bio break. I'm not X-carding. I'm not
Okay.
triggered. I just need to use the rest of it.
Thank you for
Timing-wise,
clarifying.
I don't need a safety tool. I just need a toilet.
Okay.
And
right,
Riley's
that's
demonstrating another gaming tool called the open door policy. You know, they're stepping away
Alfred
from
broke
it.
the studio.
It's fine. I'll do it. It's fine. Okay. Why don't we move on to mailbag
We
3?
X-carded my butt.
Mailbag 3.
I'll read it.
Okay.
Okay, great. I just want to say, I've mentioned this on the stream before, but I am an immigrant, and for me, role-playing games were a way to practice the English language.
Yes.
So I really relate to this email, and I'm glad that this person wrote in. So, without further ado, hello, Jackers of Happy. As prescribed by Kimmy, here's another email as practice for my English, and as a follow-up to my email from season 23, episode 1.
It's nice to know I'm consistent.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, write in emails and practice your language skills.
Yeah, good job, good job. Okay. Okay.
Season 23 was a long time ago.
Well, we're in season 34, everyone, folks.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, 35.
35. Folks, how time flies, am I right?
Right.
Here we go. All right. As a small reminder, because it was a big-ass email, I asked you all for help to motivate my players to get involved into the module from 5e. Well, since I live in the Netherlands, I listened to the podcast when I woke up on the day I had to run the game, and it was a big help. We had a blast while the game was going on, having a PC who has 6 different personalities in their brain, and a cleric who has detect thoughts in the scenario was a scenario for huge fun. That does actually sound very fun.
So one PC has 6 personalities, and another character is a cleric with detect thoughts, hearing all of it all the time.
Yeah.
Fun.
Okay.
This is already cool, yeah. Eventually, we were having so much fun fucking about. Great. That one player actually had to leave the table because she was unable to focus and make full sentences because she was laughing so much and just couldn't look anyone in the eyes anymore or risking having a breakdown again.
Yeah.
Sweet.
For reference, you used fucking about perfectly. Nice job.
That's right. Good job. That is the proper use of fucking about. After the session was over, I followed your advice and, well, did the smart thing and discussed my problem with the players. I just sat straight up and told them what my problem was and asked them for input. Told them, okay, you are going to reach a section where you have a lot of freedom, and what do you want to do? Cool. And I asked them to give me ideas, requests, and info. What I can use in this game. I told them they can build with me in the world. If your background has a cult in it, fine. So sorry. I'm just going to back it up a little bit because I think I lost the thread here. So I asked them to give me ideas, requests, and info. What I can use in the game. And I told them they can build it with me in the world. If your background has a cult in it, fine. Make up a cult in the general lines, and I will finish it.
I think it's supposed to be build the world with me, not build me with me in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're asking like collaborative world building.
Yeah, but it's got to poetic. Build with me in this world.
Build
okay.
me in the world.
Yeah. So world building together. This is great. Yeah.
I might put that on a t-shirt.
Eventually, build with me in the world. Eventually, having a lot of info to tie them into the main story plot. So all in all, it was a huge success, and I'm a lot less stressed out about it all. And off of all of this, I'm asking for some quest ideas or plot hooks, or things that you all think would be fun to have as side quests in an open world idea. I'm planning on incorporating some of my own personal characters I made as NPCs in this world, so if you would give me the honor, I can incorporate some character ideas you have as NPCs, or maybe some characters that you have been playing. Also, they don't have to be D&D characters. If you have PCs from another system, give me the idea and I'll make them an NPC. And give you all an update when the PCs meet them. So I hope you all like this follow-up and give me some good ideas if you feel like it. Greetings, Gaz the DM from the Netherlands. P.S. As a response to Kimmy complimenting me on my vocabulary, I've been tested and I can read, speak, and listen on university-level English. But grammar, punctuation, and building a proper sentence is where my weak points are. But it's nice to know that I'm not doing as bad as I thought, and that made me feel extra happy.
Aww.
That's really sweet.
Congrats on the good English.
Congratulations. For clarity, when he's talking about, or they're talking about their problem, I don't know their pronouns. Are we talking about what was in the previous email? Because I don't really know what the problem is.
Yeah,
being
yes.
It sounds like it was more of like an update and also invite for us to also collaborate world building.
Which
No, I meant on the first page, like there's a discussion about someone laughing at the table, and then the next thing is I followed your advice and discussed my problem with the players. So I don't know what the problem was. That's just referring to the old email.
Me neither. It's
This is an email from like 2018, so especially like I'm not gonna go back and look it up. So I was making sure. I was making sure that I wasn't missing something because I went to the bathroom. Like,
You were
"Wait,
not.
what did I miss? I'm reading this.
Yes.
I read the whole thing.
So for all the listeners, this is an archive email from 2018. I should have prefaced it before, and this is a person who was a following on the previous email.
So some of that information was from a conversation that we won't have context for. So-
Basically, they used our advice to do like because I do vaguely remember this email from a very long time ago, where they were like wanting to come up with ideas and stuff, and we basically said, hey, you don't have to come up with everything. Like, and that's why like they went to communal world building. It was much less stressful for them. They got a lot of ideas. So this is kind of a follow up.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And it said nice things about me, so I picked it.
it's right. You deserve a nice thing said about you.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do it. Somebody.
Somebody has to.
God's the DM from Netherlands.
Yeah. So plot hooks and what are some of your favorite like plot hooks you've used in games?
Gosh. I mean, I was just going to start by saying that the collective world building thing, I'm doing that with a game I'm running right now. And it is so fun. It takes off like a lot of the stress, and yeah, good on you for doing it too. It's very fun, right? Anyway, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Finish it up.
No, I was just I had like one of the I was just gonna keep expanding. One of the players is really into like old like aeronautics, air machines and stuff, and it's set in a like classic Ghibli-esque world. So I was like, Flight, who that's his name on the Discord. I was like, you get to design the airships. Have fun, and he went yes. So
Exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, building off of that, what I was gonna say, I apologize. I thought I was starting to talk and then I realized you were just taking a breath, and I was like, wait, okay, hang on.
it's okay.
I like to treat players' backstories and character builds as wish lists.
Yes.
So if something is important to a character in their backstory, I like to find a way to make it work in the world of the game. Similarly, at world building, especially if we build the world together and collectively have people pitch. Like if we, I don't know, hypothetically, if there were a card game that you could use to build aspects of your world while you were doing it, like if such an amazing card game existed and people contributed fun things in this world while they were building it, I would make sure as a GM, like, okay, that's something that excited my players, so I want to put that into the story. And so that's like a big thing. So like that's some stuff. Like I have a character. Okay, all my stories right now are about running D&D for kids. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry because it's the best thing that's ever happened.
And it also is like it has great examples that are fresh and new every week.
Yeah, there is. This is so. I feel like I'm just stealing this kid's stuff now to put in the story. But like, there's a kid who in our school year game we played on Sundays was playing he made like a homebrew version of the Kenku who live in the Feywild, that instead of being ravens, they're kingfishers. Whoa. And they're called the Kinku. And he's modeled their whole society after like ancient Rome. So they have like, but his character was Prince the Prince. It was Prynce, the Prince, and he was playing him in the new campaign. He's playing so he wanted Prince to become king because somebody assassinated the old king. In the new campaign, he's playing the guy who assassinated the old king. So he's playing Guilty the Guilty, who is a rogue, like who's an assassin.
How's guilty spelled?
It's spelled Giltie. So Guilty the Guilty. And so he's been playing this character, Guilty the Guilty. And he asked me one day, and I hadn't really been including because we're playing a book module, but like he was like, "Are you ever gonna bring the Kinku into this game?" And I was like, "I never thought about it because it was like your story and your lore. I didn't think that I had permission to do that." But once he did, I go, "Hey, give me like a sheet of like what you know about them or whatever, and I'll see what I can do." And now throughout the game, I have been like occasionally. So when we had it happen in the previous campaign, we were running Infinite Staircase, which involves like a pathway through the multiverse. And I took over from another GM for this table, and he had said that like, oh, this character wants to build a pathway through the multiverse from the Feywild to the rest, so they can go out and possibly conquer more lands or whatever, like Romans. And so I used that. We had the tables got so big that we had to split the groups into two. And so I was like, oh, we just built this pathway through the multiverse, through this interdimensional portal. I'm going to use this as a reason why the tables get separated. So like there's a flash of light, and now there's two realities, and two tables are two different realities. Anyway, so he was like, you did that thing that was really cool. Are you going to do that again here? So long story short, I have now started including different Kinku that are in Choltz during Tomb of Annihilation. So like I'm like, okay, well, where would they be and why would they be there? And so like there was one point where they were dealing on like this high mountaintop, and there was these terror folk they had to like deal with, and I put two Kinku up there, and they were On and Voy, the envoys, and they were there to make diplomatic connections with the terror folk. And then I also had they ran into a rebellious one that was on a pirate ship, and his name was Traitor, and he was a pirate. He betrayed and he left. And then the most recent one I did was he's going to be gone this next week, and so I wanted to write a reason why his character's not there, and so I introduced that reason through a legion of a centurion-led troop of Kinku led by General the General, because his naming convention was so funny that I'm like, every time I make a character now I have to think of a silly naming convention. So anyway, long story short, that was like I found what made him excited about it and like built it in, and then I was like, okay, all I have to do is play up your character is known for killing this king and he's a wanted criminal, so I'm gonna put in different members of your society that are hunting you down and trying to like. So when I had On and Voy find him, then I was like, oh, one of them survived because the fight that we had, Voy escaped. And so when the general came up, they're like, oh, Voy reported back that the murderer of our king is still alive and is in Chult, so we are in Chult looking for you. And like, so like that's like the things that he built. So like and it's all because of player wishes. So anyway.
That's amazing.
Can we join your summer camp?
Yeah,
kids.
Boy, if only there was a place where I could run games for people.
I'll say all the slang. I'll say mid and skibbity all the time. I'll fit in.
You know what? During my school year, a kid told me that something I did was Sigma, and I had to lean over to the other teacher and go, "Is Sigma good?" And she was like, "I have no idea." And I was like, "I don't either. I'm just gonna pretend it was."
It's good. It's good.
Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love this so much. You know, I like a stupid naming convention. Not stupid.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of NPCs, so the one D&D campaign that I'm running right now, which is a Acquisitions Incorporated, and I just wanted to run something from a module.
Yeah.
I really leaned into the corporate shenanery of it, and it's all very buttoned up. You meet the CEO. There's a whole HR tour of the facilities to begin with. Like I kind of like added these elements to sort of like really bake in this kind of mishmash of, you know, The Office meets Game of Thrones kind of thing, to set the tone and stuff. But as part of the character creations, I went a step further with like all these documents that I like making these stuff, and I had an HR intake form, and it's like, you know, Acquisition, you know, AC Inc. welcomes you to the company. You know, you know, thank you for being here, and you're welcome.
I love that.
And so it was just like your age, your like
Yes.
past experiences. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's like, how long have you been in Waterdeep? And so, but then it baked in all of these different questions that are like, you know, who are your, who are your emergency contacts in Waterdeep? You know, what, you know, for an office social event, what are some of your favorite places to visit in Waterdeep? And so I had them basically give like this homework, so they would just do. And so what's cool is that they came up with, and there's a whole other element too, where, you know, all of the characters have died before and they've been revived, and now they owe the fee for their revival to Acquisition Corporate. So they're working
That's
out
very
their
Angel
debt.
season 5. I like that quite a bit.
Well, and so they're working out this debt. They're
Not in that way. I don't mean that.
they're gonna find out. You know, I mean, I learned from the best. You know, so they're all gonna find out how this whole thing works. How are they able to be revived? Where, you know, and they know that if they die, that there's a backup body, like Altered Carbon style, they're gonna get put in. There's like who's the body belong to, and so I peppered in all these enough things that got them bubbling. So they filled out like, oh, before I died, like I had an estranged ex-husband, and I think he's the one that killed me because I slept with his brother. And so these are all NPCs, and so I look at Acquisition Incorporated, and basically anytime there's an NPC, I'm just subbing in people that they created to just create, so it kind of feels like it's just entirely theirs.
Love it.
Where it's going to go in terms of with the conversations, are they going to get tangentially off track? You know, we'll see, and that's totally fine. But that's like a way for me to like create NPCs that just directly from, you know, the players' mouths.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun. In terms of plot hooks, you know, I've recently been really into flashbacks, using flashbacks in game. I had an absolutely fucking far out, just like all the kudos to these players I have for a Mothership game at Geeky Teas for a free RPG day, and I had this like flashback thing that I created, which was basically like, oh, here's like before you got into this place, we're flashback to the moment when you guys were on the deck of your ship receiving this mission and stuff, and it was great because it created this like opportunity for all of them to sort of weigh in and kind of discover their characters. And in the process of that, somebody came up with they're taking this job because they need the money. And somebody's like, well, I'm taking this job because my last job because I'm about to retire with my husband. And I'm like, oh, great. I didn't know you had a husband. We're going to put that in. There's going to be, you know, so all of them had these like reasons to be there, which I can sort of like draw into other things. Yeah. I've been kind of fond of that because it's like a good way for them to kind of get to know their character, because it's always interesting, you know, to not pre-plan a lot of that stuff. And as you're discovering the character in the moment, suddenly you're being asked to think about this character a week ago. Yeah. And you're like, oh, cool. I already kind of have a baseline, so I can kind of pepper in this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
For me, for like plot hooks, but also like side questy type things, I love just exploring the world more. I'm super well known for like the whimsical kind of side quests. It's like, it doesn't really necessarily like further the plot, but it gives them more information about each other just by like how they react. Or especially like my Lord of the Rings stuff. It's like, what lore can I put in this? Here, there's some lore over here. Come over here. And generally they were fantastic about that. But I really like, for me, side quests are kind of a chance to slow things down a little bit and have them interact with each other and learn more about each other in a way that isn't pressed forward by the plot. So it's a little bit like if you're watching a series, there's like the bottle episode sometimes, which for those of you who don't aren't in the in industry kind of lingo, bottle episodes are generally like when a show is trying to make an episode for very little money. So they do it on sets or something that they already have. It generally takes place in like one location. So if you're watching Star Trek and suddenly, exactly, basically.
Well, I don't know, Voyager. They
they do a lot, but like the premise of Voyager and the premise of DS9 is like, it's Star Trek, but they're all stuck on a spaceship. It's Star Trek, but they're all stuck on the ship very far.
Bottle episodes are more like if someone's stuck in an elevator for a whole episode.
Yes.
Or like in Breaking Bad, like the episode The Fly, where the entire thing takes place in the lab. So it's not just like a show that has limited sets that are built. It's like literally one single set. Yeah. So like there's an episode of Parks and Recreation where Leslie and Ron are locked in the like a room together, and like they're stuck the whole episode in this one room together, and they don't like there's an episode of this most recent season of The Bear that takes entirely in place behind the restaurant, and like it's literally a 30+ minute episode, and it's just characters talking behind the restaurant the entire time.
Yeah. And they do it for a lot of reasons. It does give you a chance for a lot of character development and relationship development. It also is something they do while they're like rebuilding sets sometimes on a series. Like, oh, hey, we have to change how this works, or we're building something for this next episode that's going to take a little longer. They tend to go with bottle episodes. So I use it kind of the same way, where you can like force interaction. Like if you have two characters or like all four of your characters or whatever are accidentally locked in an elevator together, you're going to get a lot of very interesting discussion. You know, as they're trying to solve that problem, as they're getting frustrated with each other, as they're crying, as they're hungry, whatever it is. I'm not saying as GM you should do this, but it's a very extreme example.
My GM did it to me and another character. That's great.
Yeah, and you can use it to kind of slow things down too. If they are progressing too quickly through your story, then that's a way to kind of slow things down, still have meaningful sessions that have a lot of furthering of the story that aren't necessarily progression of the plot, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I already went. I can go again.
That's fine. We're also at like an hour. Yeah, we're doing pretty good at time. So if you have
but yeah, I just remembered. So one of the plot hooks that I created that I'm the most proud of, that like one of the things I was having trouble, I was burning out of a like sci-fi campaign I was running, and I was just like, I don't know, we're going through too fast through the plot, and I was like, I want to take a break, but like I can't think of anything I want to do. And my friend Maggie was just like, you're into The Last of Us right now, or like you're into like this plucky young kid trope thing right now. Just make a whole episode / thing about that. And I went, I guess I can do that, because I forgot I can do whatever I want forever. And that was it ended up being one of the most memorable like episodic parts of the campaign. There was a lot of lore I wove into. Basically, like, it's this sci-fi world. There are universal communicators, but the universal communicators use the psychic crystal, and the psychic crystal, it can also be used to control people using block chips. They get embedded in their brainstem, and it's a whole thing. And it's like and then someone figured out how to use the crystals to communicate with animals who were thought of as non-sentients, and like anything that couldn't communicate like that was considered non-sentient. And so like, it was a plucky little girl who had an amulet with this crystal in it who could talk to the animals, and then the person who gave it to her was like this tortured scientist who felt so guilty that his creation was being used by one of the militaries in the world, and he tried to steal their ship. And then this technology was being used by the enemies who were like chasing these refugees throughout a bunch of different towns on this forest planet. And then they had to do like the Western thing where they reinforced the town, and they had to withstand a siege from like a bunch of attacking animals.
Nice.
And like those roles were like everyone had a lot of fun. And I was like, oh, I gotta have fun too as a GM. So like, just think about the tropes you like, the stuff you like, figure out how to tie it into the lore if you want to, and like, remember that you are a player too, and you deserve to have fun as well. It's important. So yeah.
Something I love doing in open world games is kind of building off what Kimmy was saying, is I like to, like, if there's a city that I've designed already or we've built together, I like to kind of just have, like, not quite a shopping day, but I kind of have, like, an explore the city day.
Yeah.
And I just kind of let the players tell me where they want to go and what they want to do, and then I kind of improvise a scene based on what they have told me, because then I'm getting, like, it gives me insights what their characters find interesting, what the players like to play with. Sometimes it also gives me the fun of, like, creating a bunch of silly NPCs to interact with and stuff like that. Like, recently in my summer camp game, I had someone say that he had his character Noah guy at like a stall in the market, and like it was this baker named Cupcake who I made an orc, and I had this whole fun of like the orc has tattoos of different baked goods all over, and each one is supposed to be a baking competition he has won, and so it's like he's celebrating his victory, and he would talk about his victories in the baking field the same way that like an orc might normally talk about like bloodshed and like murder, like oh I bested every baker in Waterdeep with my cheesecake that afternoon, like that kind of thing, and so it was very fun to play that, and that led to there's in Tomb Annihilation there's a side quest that involves a vendor's husband who's been wrongfully accused of a crime and thrown into the Colosseum pit. You have to save them. So now we've got this character that matters to the party. And so instead of making it the NPC that's in the book, I was like, oh, it's Cupcake's husband, Jeremy. You have to go save. Like that. But also, it just gives that fun thing. I had another one. Oh, I just lost it. So no, fun and games. I think that like sometimes if you just have like, especially if like people are still in the mood to play, but maybe you've gotten to the end of an arc, but like you don't really want to wrap up the night yet because everyone's having a good time and everyone's kind of sitting around and people still want to roll dice. You could just have like a carnival's happening in town, or one thing we're doing a lot in Tomb Annihilation is there's dinosaur racing all throughout the city, and so you can go do a dinosaur race, and like you can spend like an hour rolling dice and thinking of like silly, goofy, like, hey, it's a carnival. What would your character do at a carnival? And like you can go like, oh, I would go play this strongman competition. Oh, great. Let's roll some strength checks to see, and almost any system you can find a way to make that work. And everyone loves to play their characters doing like low downbeat things,
Hijinks.
And those are again like in terms of like plothood or like character development. There's like they really do work for, I think, your players getting to know their characters better.
Yeah.
Because they're like, what would I do in this circumstance? How would I have fun and stuff? And it does, I think, generate things, because you could be like, people could surprise you by being like, oh, I didn't go to a lot of parties when I was learning the savage art of cupcake making. This is my first festival ever. What do people do? So that's like something you get to then sort of invent, and that gives you just that's a really interesting insight into the players' minds and how they see their characters.
Yeah,
totally.
I love that. I'm interested in going back and listening to season 23, episode 1, because this is 2018, so this is pre-Decuba.
Yep.
So I'm interested in seeing what my advice about collaborative world building was before I spent a bunch of years creating a game about it. Because that'd be interesting.
I am planning a future
good.
week of using Decuba. So one day a week I run the after camp class, like the aftercare, and part of what I'm doing is how to GM. And so one of the days that we are doing it, I'm going to use Decuba like as a way to like get the kids to understand how to build a world together.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's nice.
All
right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for season 35, episode 21. Please support our amazing indie designer of the month, Jay Dragon. You can find her games at possumcreekgames.itch.io. Thank you to our chat mod, James B, and to our amazing Patreons who keep us ad-free and independent and playing and talking about whatever we want. You can join their amazing ranks at happyjacks.org/Patreon. We're always especially thankful for you in the summer when it's like 100 degrees here and we have air conditioning running, because you help me pay for that. Because my teacher salary, especially in the summer, is very, very thin. Very thin. We don't get paid in summer. And then, my name is Kimmy. You can find me at Golden Lasso Girl on Blue Sky. I'm trying to be active on Instagram again. I'm trying, friends. And you can find my games that I make at goldenlassogames.com. I will be here on Tuesday nights with Cody for our game Road to Nowhere, our Electric State AP, and then I'm here every Saturday night-ish. Sometimes we record on other nights, but most of the time on Saturdays. Usually. Right.
Woo. I'm Artam. You can find me currently on Instagram at Artam Directly. There's a lot of footage there of my very, very adorable tiny baby dog. So that's very important, and you should get to know little Moisha. I also have a podcast called Scary Movie in a Sandwich. It's about pairing scary movies with sandwiches. That's right. The SEO
great
is
title for that.
really good. I have kind of like a batch of new episodes I think coming out in time for Halloween. But in the meantime, there's a bunch of really good stuff on there on YouTube and just for anywhere you find your audio listening entertainments. And I'm going to be, I think, running a few live things at Geeky Tees. I'm going to be at the Dead Gamer Society Con that's happening at the end of July. So get in touch with Dead Gamer Society if you're in LA. Come sign up for my game. I'm going to be running Mothership. I'm obsessed with Mothership and androids at the moment. Yeah, shout out to Mutants Casually Crawling, my home Discord. Big fan of you guys. You guys are great. And also a big shout out to Story Games LA, my kind of.
Friday.
Oh yes, yes. Oh, thank you. So Cody and I will both we'll double team. We'll run a train on this announcement. Let's take a step back there. We'll find a different phrasing. This Monday, the 30th, will be our Pride event for the Story Games LA, happening at the one and only Geeky Tees Game Store in Los Angeles, in Burbank, California. And it'll be a lot of Pride-themed games. I'll be running Women Are Werewolves, which is a fantastic story prompt game as well. So lots of events. Yeah, get in touch. And thanks so much for listening. Okay.
Hey everybody, I'm Riley Silverman. You can find me on Instagram and Dusky at Riley Silverman, and also you can find my Doctor Who original audio drama audio book. It is on the Tales from the Vortex Volume 3, the short trips collection through Big Finish Productions. It is called Dark Watchers of California, and I'm very proud of it. So I recommend checking that out. And there's also some other great stories in that same box set. So it's all in digital, so box set's a bit of a misnomer, but get them all, whatever. It's good. Doctor Who, it's great. Also, my actual play podcast, Good Chaotic, we just recorded we're getting close to the end of our first major arc with this new show, which is very exciting. But we're also doing our second live show as Good Chaotic at Anime Expo in LA this year, which is my first time ever going, because I'm not famously a huge anime fan, but I'm excited to do it anyway. And we are actually going to be doing a one-shot of a modification of, I can't remember which Power Rangers style RPG. It's like the Henshin system, I think, where we're doing what's called Random Rangers, Go Random Rangers, I think we're calling it. We're rolling to see what color and who the Red Ranger is and stuff like that. But I looked at it. It seems like it's a Power by Apocalypse hack, I think, and it's a very emotional teenage-based thing.
Yeah.
So we'll be there on Thursday, July 3rd. I think it's 8 o'clock p.m. we're doing it. So if you were at AX in LA this year, check that out. If not, it will probably be on our feed at some point. So.
Hello, I'm Cody Gonzaga. You can find information about me on my website, www.codygonzaga.com. That is KODIGONZAGA. And I'm on the Blue Sky and the Tumblr and maybe the Instagram. Maybe. I'll be on the Electric State game on Tuesday nights for Road to Nowhere. I am running this Monday for the Pride event at Story Games LA. I am running Dream Askew by Avery Alder, and I can't remember anything else to plug. It's fine.
All right. Today we're going to leave you the song. We're going to leave you the song called Troll Whack by our friends at the Dread Crew of Oddwood. They are our fantastic acoustic hard metal pirate friends from the Renaissance Fair. You can find them at the Dread Crew of Oddwood. You have to have the.com. And we will see you next week.